So it's time for the next entry in my Disney Canon project rewatch. We are at the 14th entry in this series, and we're looking at the Walt Disney animated classic Peter Pan. This was released in 1953 and of course based on the J.M. Barrie play called The Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up. It is an interesting film to look at because I think if you were going to ask me what Disney film does not hold up very well, I would say Peter Pan. But that doesn't mean I think it's a terrible film and nobody should see it. But there are definitely aspects of it that I think don't hold up that well to modern scrutiny, I guess. But let's talk about it, and we'll talk about some of the good things and some of the bad things. Peter Pan, of course, tells the story of Wendy, Michael, and John, three children living in London in 1900. They have parents, Mr. and Mrs. Darling, and they have a dog who is their nanny. And they like to hear stories about make-believe and Neverland and use their imagination, and they're very, very creative boys and Wendy. And one day they see a shadow of somebody. They don't know who. Turns out it's Peter Pan, and Wendy gets the shadow and she ends up meeting Peter Pan. This is after her father has told her that this is her last night in the nursery. So in order to prevent Wendy from getting taken out of the nursery and prevent her from growing up, Peter Pan takes her to Neverland with the boys. There she meets the Lost Boys. She'd already met Tinkerbell briefly when she met Peter, but she meets Tinkerbell, and then you have Captain Hook as the main antagonist in this story. So you get to see sort of their adventures in Neverland and whether they decide to grow up or not and return and all of that fun stuff like we know. This was originally intended to be Walt Disney's second film. This is a story he always really loved, but they had some problems obtaining the copyright from another studio, I guess, in London that had been given it by Barrie, but they ended up being able to get it, and they did make this a musical with songs by Oliver Wallace, Sam Fane, and Frank Churchill. And I actually think, in my opinion, that the songs are actually better than the Broadway musical version of Peter Pan that we've seen with Kathy Rigby and some of the other performers who've done it. Also get in Peter Pan some great vocal talent, including Bobby Driscoll as Peter Pan, and you have Catherine Beaumont returning from Alice in Wonderland as Wendy. She's very good here, and I think she just has a really good voice for these growing up characters because there's something old and something young about her voice, which I like. And of course you have Hans Conroy as Captain Hook. And what is interesting about this version of Peter Pan is they go with a very, very comedic take on the character. And if you watch a bunch of different versions of Peter Pan, you will see that a lot of them are actually kind of serious and take more sort of an adventure aspect to the character. This is very, very slapsticky and very silly, particularly the scenes with Captain Hook and the crocodile. And I think they're actually really well done. They're really well executed. It may seem somewhat slight because sometimes that's sort of easy to feel that way about comedy, particularly slapstick comedy, but there's an art to it and it's difficult to do, and I think it's really enjoyable, and it's great for kids. Kids really, really think it's hilarious, and I don't blame them because it is pretty funny. And you get just an all-out sort of snarly, awful villain with Hook, and he's really, really funny and making people walk the plank and shooting people. There's a scene where sailors, one of the pirates is just singing in an annoying way, just shoots him. So that's sort of a different kind of villain than we've sort of seen before in a way in a Disney film. And you also get some really nice moments, like I really like the mother song with Wendy and kind of talking about her family and talking about her mother and life and all of that, and there's a lot of fun adventure in the film. It's also a beautiful film to look at. You get more of the Mary Blair artwork that I just love so much, her influence in the geometric sort of style to it all, and it's just beautiful, particularly, of course, the ship as they are leaving. Beautiful. Some things I don't particularly care about the film, and I think make it so it doesn't really hold up all that well. There's a song that I feel like is probably the most racist song in Disney history, about that the Indians sing, and it's explaining to these white characters why the red man is the way that he is, and it's just really hard to watch, really tough, and just read you some of these lyrics, and I'm sorry, I find them kind of demeaning, and the way that this whole group of people and this race is characterized is just kind of not good. He says, "Why does he ask you how? Once the Injun didn't know all the things that he knows now. But the Injun, he sure learns a lot, and it's all from asking how. Hana mana ganda, we translate for you. Hana means what mana means, and ganda means that too. When did he first say When did he first say In the Injun book it says, when the first brave married squaw, he gave out with a big when he saw his mother-in-law. Let's go back 1,000,000 years to the very first Injun prince. He kissed a maid and start to blush, and we've all been blushing since. You've got it from the headman, the real true story of the red man. No matter what's been written or said, now you know why the red man's red." It's not good. It's just not. That's not a good thing, to be making fun of a culture and belittling a culture and race. I don't like that. And I'm not one of these like alarmists that find racism where racism doesn't exist, but I am willing to call it out when it is there. So I guess that's it. The other strange thing I find in Peter Pan is the way that Wendy is treated. And this is definitely something I didn't notice as a child. Even as a child, I kind of knew, like, that Red Man song's not very nice. But I didn't notice the way Wendy's treated, because from the very, very beginning, she's treated as this lovely character who's telling stories and everything like that, but she's also treated with a certain amount of scorn and sort of belittled for doing nothing. Like, even her first interactions with Peter Pan, she's told that girls talk too much. Get on with it, girl. That's the introduction to the character. And Tinkerbell immediately hates her. And also, the mermaids try to drown her. And then they try to shoot her out of the sky at one point. I mean, there's just this repeated kind of assault on this character for doing nothing. And it's just kind of looked at with a certain degree of derision, except for when she is particularly being motherly, as in the mother scene. So that's not good. I don't really like that. And so those are probably my biggest those are some of my biggest concerns with the film. I love the humor, but it's also very strong, and if you don't like that kind of slapstick, it's not going to be your favorite. I don't like the Red Man song, and I think the way that Wendy's treated isn't my favorite. So those are my concerns. But if somebody were to recommend, or if somebody were to ask me, should they see Peter Pan? Absolutely, of course you should. I would totally show my kids. I think that its errors are not so insurmountable that it's unwatchable. I think that it's completely still has many magical qualities to it, the imagination to it. The humor is enjoyable for kids. And you need to watch Peter Pan to be introduced to Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell would go on to become one of the most iconic figures in all of Disney. Really up there close to Mickey Mouse in sense of she actually touches the Disney logo at certain points. The sort of crown around the Disney castle in the logo is put on by Tinkerbell. She was somebody that Walt would often appear, with Walt on. So it's almost worth seeing Peter Pan just to look at sort of the start of Tinkerbell and really see how that character has grown and changed so much from somebody in the original film that's kind of a semi-antagonist, that's really, like I said, kind of against Wendy from the very beginning and sort of unpleasant. She's not that nice of a character, and how she is somehow morphed into having a whole series of films based on her and being this important figure in Disney. So it's worth it for all those things. Great voice talent, beautiful artistry, and a lot of imagination and good songs, I think, except for Red Man. So yeah, let me know what you think of Peter Pan, and is it a favorite of yours? And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.